All right, hello everyone. I'm here with one of the most famous Magic players, a member of a rival league and a former MPL and also former Player of the Year, Michael Sigrist. And the reason why I'm making this interview is because Corona is like super bad in Czech. I'm super bored. I don't really have anything to do. I can't really go to tournaments, talk to people and stuff. So I just thought that I would message a bunch of people if they wanna make an interview with me. And a lot of them said yes, and Michael is one of them. So, what's up, Mike?
How's it going, Petr? Been a long time.
Yeah, we actually used to be in the same team. I think it's like 3 or 4 years ago. That's when I first met you. Um,
Yeah, that is definitely when we first met. We tested. I still test with all the same team. You left and went elsewhere and did whatever. But yeah, we had a lot of fun testing together.
yeah, it was great. I even have like a specific, we call it a Siggy Volk. Like Michael walks in a certain way, and I just, I was just imitating it. So, that was a
I was
nice.
actually going to ask you to do that. Can you do that? Is it possible if you just
I
get
don't think I'm as good as it anymore, but like it's just something like this. You just like basically walk into the building, you're like you're just like owning the building. You're like the boss of the building. You're like, hey, what's up? Like that's the Siggy walk.
yeah? I remember the first time you did that was it was like a Walmart and I can't remember where we were, but
Well,
we had to walk around
I
all
don't
the
know.
aisles.
Like I think to all of us it was like super obvious that you're doing it, but I think that if I didn't specifically do that, you wouldn't realize that you have like a specific way you
Oh
walk.
yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, I follow Magic super closely, so like obviously I know who you are, but a lot of the people who watch maybe know that you used to be MPL and are your rivals, but they don't really know like the backstory. Like I know that you like maybe played when like you were younger, then you went to poker, then you came back to Magic, and you like immediately became Player of the Year. Can you just like maybe talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so I started playing around. I, I would say, I say Ice Age, but it was like the sets that were out at the time were like Fourth Edition, Fallen Empires, and Ice Age. I think Ice Age was the newest set. I don't really recall, but yeah, so that was like 1996 or
That's a long time ago.
it is. Yeah, I've been
I was
playing for
actually born 94, so that's kind of funny.
almost 25 years. Yeah, you were you were born in 1994. You said.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right, so
26 right now.
you were 4 or 5 years old when I played my first Pro Tour.
Yeah, that's funny. How old were
Wow.
you then? You were like 10 or like 12 or something, or
When I played my first Pro Tour,
yeah.
when I played or when I started. When I started, I was like, yeah, 12 or 13. I played my first Pro Tour on my 16th birthday.
Oh, okay. That's very
So
young. That's very young.
yeah, yeah, it was. It was the first time leaving my house, like flying across the country to California with a friend of mine, Jeff, and it was both of
Was
our
it
first.
like was it like back in the day where the PTQ still like didn't award the flight tickets for the winners, so that I don't know how it was in America, but for example in Czech, a lot of the times there was a PTQ where like only one player could like afford to pay for the flight ticket, so that basically everyone just scooped to him. How did it work?
Uh, if I recall correctly, when I won my first PTQ, I agreed to split with the person in the finals. But I think they gave us $250 in travel comp then. The plane ticket was much more expensive, but I think like I know I got a job, got my first ever job to fund my plane ticket to California. So I and then I quit immediately after. But I worked in a bookstore for I don't know, I guess 2 months. That's where my mom worked, so she got me a job there, and I just did that for as long as I needed to get my plane ticket, and then got out. Yeah.
So I actually like the when I like noticed that you're like a really good player was about the time when like Andre started debating. Um, it was like I think it's like 2015 or 16 or something like that when you became Player of the Year. Like you just like came into the scene. You made like two top eights. You made a top eight of the first Pro Tour, then you lost to Joel in the finals when you like mulliganed to free or something in the last game. You became player of the year, and since then you were doing pretty well. but I didn't really know about you before that. So like, were you like having good results even before this, or did you just like were just like a medium player and then like all of a sudden you just like started crushing everyone? Like, how did it go?
So I, when I was younger, like when I was 16 or whatever, I was pretty good, but I didn't test. Like I had never tested for a pro tour outside of limited pro tours because I drafted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I never. I would show up to constructed pro tours with playing maybe one match with my deck or whatever. Like that's just how it was then. Like I didn't have the resources or the team or whatever. So I just and Magic Online wasn't a thing back then. So like you would just build something and hope it was good, kind of thing. That was the time when.
It's just crazy to, if you think about how it works now, that's just like crazy to think about that people just
Yeah.
play with decks that they never played before, basically.
The people who are organized, like I still think I was a good player then, but I wasn't organized. I didn't have like the resources that other people had, and the other players were better too. So like all odds were stacked against me then. It's not like, I mean, yeah, I could look up a deck or something, but back then some of the formats were like completely undiscovered. Brand new. A lot of the pro tours were block constructed, stuff like that. And I didn't qualify for all of them. I qualified for a few, but I wasn't like on the train or anything. And when I first started having a lot of success was when I came back. I lived in Las Vegas for about 5 years, and I moved back to Massachusetts. And some of my old friends, Dave Shields specifically, who some of you may know and may not, he was a
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah.
you will. People from nowadays might not because he stopped playing for the most part recently. But I saw him at a local SCG tournament, and he had just won a Grand Prix or something like that. And he said, "Hey, you should start getting back into it. Try competitively." I said, "Yeah, you know what? I might." One of the things that held me back, I always loved Magic, and I played Magic Online a lot, even when I wasn't competitive. It was just I didn't know people.
Yeah.
Like in Vegas, when I lived in Vegas specifically, I didn't know anybody, so it was really hard to. It sucks to like show up to a tournament not know anybody. You kind of just like sit in the corner and
Yeah, I
play your-
actually hear that from like a lot of people from like states and stuff, but like, I'm from Czech Republic and the country is so small that like basically if you can become competitive, you would like immediately know all the like good players because it's just super small. So I cannot really relate, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean it's hard when you don't have like even the one person. Like even one person can introduce you to everyone else. I just didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
I started to meet some people when I would show up to tournaments, but I didn't even like know when events were. I wasn't following it closely enough. When I got back, I had my old friends, and so I was like, okay, I'll start doing it. And I won, I think maybe my second or third PTQ when I came back, with Blue White Delver, or like back then when Delver was the best standard deck or something.
Yeah, it was like with like the Restoration Angel Ponder Guys of Saint Draft kind of deck, or
Yeah, actually, I think Restoration Angel was just legal that weekend.
oh, I see. Yeah.
That I won PTQ. I think that was the first. It was the second one because the first one I played the red green, whatever, swords and elves deck. And
Yeah, I
then-
remember that deck. It just played like 7 swords or whatever, like
Yeah.
eight mana dorks and like Strangler Guys, Hellrider or whatever.
Yes, I played that deck. And my thought at the time was like, I don't know, I'm new, I'm like just coming back. I'm probably not good enough to win Delver Mirrors. That was my fear, because I have never played them before or whatever. And so I'm not going to play Delver, even though I know it's the best deck. I'm just going to play a deck that will let me get lucky. And I think I got 9th at that PTQ. I played the red green deck, then I played the Delver deck, won the next one. That qualified me for Pro Tour Return to Ravnica, I believe, the one that Stan won.
Oh yeah, that's Return to Ravnica. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I lost to Marco Camiluzzi playing for top 25 of that PT, but I was like, oh, I should.
You have something going on, so
Yeah, and so I started. The one thing that I never had, I didn't travel to Grand Prix and stuff back before. In fact, I think the first time I took a plane to a Grand Prix, I can actually remember it was Grand Prix Chicago. I believe Tyler Bloom won.
Tyler, I don't think I know that
Yeah,
guy.
it was during Mono Black Devotion. That was the
Okay.
first. That was the first Grand Prix I ever flew to. So it was like the Grand Prix before my first Grand Prix win. So like I had only played maybe a dozen Grand Prix going up to that, and I never had a top 8. So I always thought like, yeah, maybe yeah, I can win PTQs now and then, but I'm not good enough to win Grand Prix or whatever or top 8 Grand Prix. And then I just top 8'd a bunch of them in a row, or not in a row, but like a
Yeah,
bunch of them.
I understand. Yeah.
I said, oh, okay, maybe I am good enough. And then I started to test with face to face, which has slowly morphed into and gone in and out of other teams like Channel Fireball and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
the name changes, but like the core of the deck, the core of the team remains the same, right? Basically, it's like Paolo and stuff.
I'm sorry, I did not understand what word.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that like the name of the team changed, but like the core of the team is basically the same.
The core of the team is, there has been some people from the original Face to Face who have come in and out of it, but yeah, it's been about the same, and the process has been about the same, and all that stuff for years now. I mean, I've been testing with them for 6 years or something now. But yeah, that's when things start. Like they taught me how to prepare. What to focus on. One of my things that held me up with Pro Tours was I was always afraid to be the first person to do something. I know that was I didn't want to show up to a tournament with a card that no one else was playing because I assumed that the general knowledge of everyone else was probably
Yeah, like I used to think that as well, but then you just kind of realize that most people just copy other people, so it's not necessarily the case.
Exactly. That's what it is. And I just said it felt safer to me to just copy something than to experiment and fail.
Yeah.
Basically, so
You see it with mana bases all the time. Like someone does really well with like a band deck, for example, and then maybe people figure out like a better sideboard slot, or like maybe there was like a better card to play main deck, but the mana base just remains the same, and you just kind of realize that people are just copying stuff because most people aren't good enough to figure it out themselves.
Very guilty of that with mana bases. Very guilty of that because
Yeah,
it's like not really it's not the thing I focus on. So I'll do my thing. I'll change cards in the deck, and I'll let someone else worry. The very noticeable things, like I need to add more blue sources so I can play a blue sideboard card or whatever than I have. Yeah, but I don't usually toy with mana bases much myself because I don't have the confidence in it, and it's something that I'm.
yeah, it's very difficult. It's also kind of like I don't know. It's just kind of annoying to do. Like
that is my problem.
Yeah, no one really wants to do that. Like they just admit it. Like
yeah. But yeah, so that once I started seeing I mean you have to have the confidence to try new things, and I started to learn to test cards, not necessarily decks. That makes sense. Like finding out what the most important cards in the format were, what the most powerful ones. Sometimes it's like example that just popped into my head now. Like I showed up to a Pro Tour Australia. I can't remember. Was it Sydney?
yeah, well, it was Sydney like 3 years ago, 2017.
People hadn't even played with Emrakul yet because it didn't show up at any of the SCG tournaments. And
Now that you think about it, like it's just like absurd, but it was the truth.
It would never happen in today's Magic. Happened in today's Magic, and that wasn't too long ago. That was 4 years ago or something, and like people just didn't try enough of the cards back then. It had a lot to do with the way cards were released online and in paper then. Obviously, it was kind of like back then. It was kind of like what I described earlier, where I didn't have resources to test decks, so you'd kind of just build something and hope it was good. And that's kind of what people had to do. They had to play in paper. So if they didn't have the resources, the set wasn't online yet, and so hands were tied. They couldn't play a lot with them.
Yeah, I definitely remember the Pro Tours back in the day where like the set just wasn't online yet, and if you didn't have a team, how do you even like choose your deck. It was just absurd. Like
Yeah.
with how it works now, it's just like kind of insane that, you know, even like 3 or 4 years ago, we were living in an age where you just like couldn't really test unless you had like a team and you just proxied the cards. Like, what?
Yeah. It is crazy how I remember the last. I mean, the Eldrazi Pro Tour was the one where
Ivan got second.
it's been like the last one I'll remember as like people literally just couldn't play with the Eldrazi, like test all the iterations of the Eldrazi deck because they had like 3 days on Magic Online before deck submission or 4 days or something, whereas we got together 2 weeks before that and we're testing and iterating on it and spent 2 whole weeks iterating on it and built like what I would consider a perfect deck, and just it felt so good having that when no one else did. Now it's just never going to happen. Everyone has, if anything, there's something broken like that, everyone has it.
Yeah. So basically what happened with you is that like you came back, you like basically immediately became player of the year, which I think is like insane or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you had like one like slightly weaker year. Then the year after you depleted the Pro Tour, I think, and then the following year you made it into MPL, and now you're rivals. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, my kids were born, so my results.
Yeah, I can. I cannot really relate because I don't have kids, but I understand to a certain extent, I guess. Yeah. I'm gonna try to pretend that I understand. It's probably way harder than I imagined, but
Just pretend that Andre was always at your house and always asking you to get him a drink and do all that.
yeah, I actually think having Andre around is probably worse than having kids, but
Yeah.
Andre just always wants you to do all the stuff for him. Can you give me that water? Well, you can just grab it yourself, but but anyways, are you like super like how much are you testing now, especially now that you have kids? Did you like your amount of time you spend on playing Magic nowadays?
So it's completely correlated with the incentives now, which I hate to say, but it's true. Like, if I don't have I don't play much Magic right now. If I don't have a tournament, like all my Magic now is I play for a purpose, like testing for an event. So like over the summer when we had the half season and there was no points, I barely played at all. Like leading up to the tournament, I'd spend maybe 2 or 3 hours, kind of like the old days, like I described before. I'd play like 3 or 4 matches with.
Is it just not fun for you anymore to just play for fun?
No, I do. I like playing limited for fun, but I just like kind of don't have time. / when I do have time, want to play other games and stuff like that. It's not that I dislike Magic. I'm just trying to not burn out on it, because I definitely have reached burnout many times.
Yeah, it definitely happened to me as well, where like, you know, when you're under pressure to like do really well, what actually happens is that you kind of start seeing playing Magic as work, and then you don't really enjoy playing it and you don't really want to play it. It's kind of weird. Like a lot of the people who never play that much can't really like relate to this, but it's actually how it works. Like,
yeah, oh, absolutely. Like it that's why like it's kind of a good thing that they don't have limited tournaments, is because it's something I'll do for fun. I'll play. I mean, whether it's the new set or a cube, it has to be interesting now. Like I didn't really enjoy Zendikar Rising. I thought it was just kind of too basic for me. But like if I just had to test limited all the time, I would kind of get sick of it and wouldn't want to do it for fun even. But yeah, like Constructed has kind of always been that to me. It's always kind of been like a chore of something I had to do to get to play high level limited, and now there's no high level limited. And I do enjoy Constructed more. I enjoy the puzzle of like building decks and stuff, especially this current standard, since it's not like super obvious what the best deck is. The best deck standards and stuff, it's like I just can't be bothered. I'll play for a week when I need to prepare, but I'm not gonna grind for a month to get 500 matches in with the deck before an event, because the diminishing the time I'd spend.
No, I understand. Yeah,
gives me way too less.
Yeah, it's just not that much fun to do that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
like you know, if you're like super motivated, you maybe do that because you just know that gives you the best chance to win. But you basically just do, like, most of the time you're just doing things automatically, and then maybe, like, you know, once in free games there is like an interesting decision and you learn something new. It's not super fun to do that.
Exactly. I would, yeah. It's just where it was limited. The games are different all the time, so it's always a new puzzle to solve.
Yeah, how do you see the fact that most of the tournaments right now, I know it's probably mostly because of Corona, but the tournaments right now are played on Arena, and we don't really get to see the actual Magic with the real cards. Is that something that bothers you, or you enjoy playing online more?
Whew, it's tough. I miss my friends a lot. I don't actually miss going to tournaments though. No, honestly, I hated traveling. It changed. I loved traveling before my kids were born. My kids were born. I hate being away from my family. It was also easier. Like my wife could come with me to places. She came with me to Hawaii twice, even once with the kids. The time with the kids, it was a struggle. The time without was probably the best weekend or best week of our lives. We had a blast. But now that she can't really come, it's kind of like I miss home a lot. I love being with my friends and stuff, but I do miss home every day that I'm there. Maybe the first day or two, I'm like, oof, God, I needed a break. But
Yeah,
after that, it's like I just want to be home.
that's awesome that you love your family so much. I am kind of jealous.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone loves their family.
No, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, even two
Yeah.
days away and you're just, like, you know, hating to be there and not be.
Yeah,
It's just awesome to hear. I didn't mean it badly.
oh no, I know. I'm just saying, like, someday, Petter, you might have children, and you'll know exactly how I feel.
Well, hopefully.
But I mean, I've been missing them now. I haven't seen my kids in almost 2 weeks now. I'm
Oh,
in
really?
isolation.
What
Yeah,
happened?
both my daughters and my wife had COVID.
Oh,
And
shit.
yes,
I'm sorry
I
about that word, but
no, it's fine. They had almost no symptoms. I swear my daughter Annabella, who got it, she was the last one to get it. She was over it in I think 2 hours. She had a fever, took Tylenol, had a little bit of a bellyache, and other than that, nothing.
okay,
My
that's good.
wife was over it in a day. I tested negative 3 times. I've been living in this room, which is why I got bedhead and all that stuff. I've been living in this room for 2 weeks.
How bad is COVID in America right now? Because, for example, in Czech, it's the worst in Europe. Nothing is really open. You can't really go anywhere. It kind of sucks. I don't really know how it's in States right now.
So from my perception, everything is open. You can do whatever you want. Everything has some kind of safety protocols. I would say a lot of that stuff is, unfortunately, show. It doesn't actually do much.
Yeah, I think it's like
but
that everywhere.
I
Like,
witnessed a person get I witnessed a person get thrown out of a restaurant for not wearing a mask. This was me. I was picking up food in a car, and
so like,
they told the person he could not come in because he didn't have a mask.
but like the other people are eating there without a mask, right?
No. So the second you walk in, you walk to a table, you sit down, you don't have a mask on anymore.
Oh, so it's just like
10
yeah.
seconds that he takes walking to his table and it's like, obviously that's not doing anything. Like, it's just
It's just following the rules blindly that don't really make sense.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of it, but basically everything's open for business. We have been incredibly safe, which is unfortunate. My wife, we believe my wife got it at work, almost certainly, and brought it home. She was the first to have symptoms. We didn't go anywhere other than we don't even go in grocery stores. We get groceries put in our car. We literally just don't see anybody. And she obviously has to work, so she must have gotten it at work and brought it home. And the kids got it. Luckily, I didn't. I'm in a high risk category, so we were protective about it and all that stuff. And hopefully things work out good. But yeah, it's bad here. It's real bad.
I mean, I think it's probably pretty bad everywhere.
I wish more things were shut down. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I wish they were. Um,
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
yeah, oh, it's all good. I mean, they're recovered, and so we are very lucky. I feel very very fortunate.
Yeah, I think we should change the change the subject.
Oh, that's all right.
So like, where do you see the future of Magic? Maybe with you or just like in general. Do you still think you're gonna focus on playing a lot, even like maybe in like 2 or 3 years, or you're not really that interested anymore? Or
So, as long
it's
as I'm in
hard
the
to know
league,
what will happen. Obviously, like I'm sure your answer will depend on what like Wizards will do, but
yeah.
like I just wanted to hear your overall opinion.
So, assuming everything stays the same or approximately the same, like things may change. They may, rename things or whatever. Who knows? But
Yeah.
assuming things stay the same, I'm going to try to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I still love being a professional player. I love testing for tournaments. I know I've said that like maybe I don't play as much for fun anymore, but the testing and preparing with my teammates and solving the puzzle, that's always my favorite part. More so than the tournaments. I don't really.
Oh,
I know a lot of
that's
people are like
actually
super
interesting.
excited to play the Pro Tour. I
That's
don't get
interesting.
excited to play big events anymore. I get excited to like solve problems with my friends. It's kind of like doing an escape room or something, Like you're just like, all right, it's just us. We have a week. What are we gonna do?
So for
And
example, if you like come up with like a really good deck list, then maybe for example you personally don't really do well, but you just know that your deck was good, and maybe some of the teammates do really well. You just feel like you did a good work, and you don't really care about your own result. Like, is that accurate?
yeah, so my two favorite Pro Tours ever were Colorless Eldrazi PT, where I did well. I think I got 25th place or something like that, but I went 5-5 with Eldrazi. Um, and my other favorite Pro Tour was Origins, and you could say that's because it was my best result. I lost in the finals, I won Player of the Year, and all that. But also, in both tournaments we had unique decks. Oh, and I guess the third I would add is green white tokens.
Yeah, the one that Steve Rubin won.
Yes, those are like my three favorite Pro Tours that I fondly remember, and it's because we had unique decks that were, I think, a cut above everything else. And like I feel like we solved it. That's what it's not my results, and I didn't even do well at the Green White Pro Tour. I think I went 9-6-1 or something. Um, but I knew we like had the best deck in the room, and like that feels so good to me. Feels better than getting lucky with whatever. Like when I
Yeah,
played
I understand what
Core
you're saying.
Energy
Yeah.
or whatever and made top eight. Like, yeah, it's fine, but like everyone played Energy. I just happen to run better than other people in the tournament. The tournaments that matter to me are when I actually solve the problem, or we solve the problem rather.
That's awesome. That's actually not a very popular way to approach it, I think. Most people just like look at their results or whatever, so it's nice to, nice to have a spin
Yeah,
on
I
that.
mean, you have to realize if you solve the problem, if you keep solving the problem, your results will come,
No, I
right? Like,
mean, of course I understand that, but like most
yeah,
people
I
don't
mean
get
that's
to
fair.
play like professional Magic for like 10 years or whatever. So this like long-term approach doesn't really apply to them, so obviously, they just look for the
Very true.
short-term
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes you won't get lucky even when you do everything right, but you can't. I mean, that's just magic, right?
Yeah, I think we talked for about 30 or 40 minutes now, so that's gonna be enough for me. But if there is like anything more you want to say or talk about, like now is your time. If there is like something that we didn't touch.
I want to ask how you're doing for 2 minutes, if that's okay.
I'm doing great. I came from Japan. I think it's like 4 or 5 months ago.
Hmm.
Um, and I got a girlfriend. She's like sleeping right there over.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about what to do because I couldn't really be here without an income, but it's like hard to find a work that pays well in Czech, so I started trading Magic. I had to do that like a lot. I did it like 12 hours a day for like 2 months because at the beginning it was really hard, but now it's like kind of going without me putting too much time into it. So I was just like thinking what to do, and like I just like thought that no one is really doing interviews, and like I know all the people, so I can actually message them, and
Hmm.
a lot of them will say yes. So And
Yeah.
like the past couple, like 3 or 4 weeks, I actually started playing a lot of Magic. Like, when I came back, I was just kind of sick of it. Like the life in Japan was super hard. I was just off everything. I came back, didn't really want to play, was doing the trading thing. So I wasn't playing Magic at all for like 2 or 3 months, but now I'm kind of back. So maybe I qualify for one of the Arena Pro Tours. We will see.
Yeah, I'll see you in Rivals in whatever 6 months or
Uh,
whenever you can be in Rivals. Get in there.
I think that if I went like 100%, maybe I have like, 20 or 30% chance that I get there in like 1 or 2 years. But I'm not really sure the upside is like high enough for me to like go 100% in it. I don't know.
Oh
It's-
yeah, I mean, follow your incentives. That's
Yeah.
that's what I would do. I
But
mean,
thanks for asking. It's very nice from you.
yeah. But yeah. Well, I'm glad to talk to you. We haven't talked at all since.
Well, it's not like I didn't want to talk to you, but
Oh no, I mean we both have a million things going on.
yeah,
And whatever. It's nice to hear from you
same.
and get to talk with you and all that stuff.
All right.
So yeah, thank you for reaching out to me so we could talk.
Yeah, awesome. So I hope everything goes well. I hope your family gets better, and see you in like I think I hope near future, but we will see how this Corona thing will turn out.
Yeah, hopefully we can all gather together again.
Yeah. See you,
All
Mike.
right.
Thanks for spending time with me.